All right, what's good with y'all? Today is day 17 of programming every day until I get a job. So today I'm looking at another LeetCode problem, LeetCode 1732, find the highest altitude. So I ended up solving this problem on my own. Then I looked for another solution on YouTube, just trying to see what an optimal solution might look like. So let's just get into it. There's a biker going on a road trip. The road trip consists of n+1 points at different altitudes. The biker starts his trip on point 0 with altitude equals 0. You're given an integer array gain of length n, where gain at I is the net gain in altitude between points I and I+1 for all 0s less than equal to I, which is less than that. Return the highest altitude of a point. So, when looking at this first example, you can just see that we're just trying to compute the altitude with given an array that we're given of gain, and from there we just try to find the max altitude. And the way that we find our altitude is really just by adding the elements of gain to each other. So we already know that our first altitude is going to be 0, right? And from there we find, okay, well, after that we get -5. And then from there, if we just add 1 and -5, we get -4. And then if we just add 5 to that, we end up getting 1. And then if we end up adding 0 to that, we end up getting 1 as well. And if we end up adding -7 to that, we get -6. And from there, we just find what the highest altitude is, and that was 1. So when thinking about solving this problem, I was thinking about, at least what I did is I just made an array that kind of stored the prefix sums of each point, and then from there I just found the max between all those points. And so that's literally just what my code does. So I ended up just saving the length because I knew I was going to use it a lot. So these are some of my comments. So boom, I just took the length of gain, and then I just initialized an altitude array with length +1 to make use of the n+1 points different altitudes. And after that, I set my max altitude to 0. From there, I was like, okay, let me loop through this altitude array, and let me set each element to what it needs to be. So altitude at I is equal to gain at I-1 plus altitude at I-1. So that's like me saying, okay, well, we know that if we're starting at 1, by the way. So if I'm starting at this first index right here, all I'm going to do is end up adding my gain at 0, and then my altitude at 0, which will get me -5, and it would work so on and so forth. And from there, I calculate my max each time, and then I would update it depending on if the altitude at I ended up being bigger than my max, and after that I just returned my max. So this works perfectly fine. The only problem is this solution has O of n space because we ended up creating another array of length gain, and there's an easier way to do it, because if you look at it, I really don't need to save each value, because all I'm doing is just comparing the altitude I get, right, to any previous altitude. So there's no really need to hold anything if I'm not going to really reference it later on. So that's what the more optimal solution ends up tackling. So this is the more optimal solution. So basically, all I do is end up setting an altitude, and I have a max alt, and I say for change and gain, so iterating through the array, well then I just say, okay, alt is plus equal to change, and then I find my max, and then I just return my max. So it's a lot simpler than my code. Mine also works. It was just the first thing that came to mind since I'm solving problems like it, but yeah.